This is Two Skis Walking to a R. I'm Brian.
I'm Ray.
And for this little vignette, we are going to talk about R Markdown. So R Markdown is a way for us to present our data to the world at large. So this is a great way to share information with a future colleague, boss. Also a great way to complete your homework.
Yep.
It makes it easy for us to read your R outputs and the information that you're presenting to us.
Yep.
So, yeah, go ahead, Ray.
Well, I was just going to say, just at the outset, the alternative to this is to make a nice script and then copy and paste graphs and output and code as needed into a Word document and make it look nice that way. That's sort of like the manual way to do it, whereas R Markdown sort of automates that.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of an extra step, but I feel well worth it in the long term.
Yeah, I could probably agree with that.
So I'm going to show you the basic workflow to accomplish your final HTML output for our R Markdown information. So as you can see here, I have created a little script that works. We have looked at the iris dataset previously in some of our other vignettes, but as you will see here, we're going to be importing our iris data and taking a summary of that data. And then I have a very simple histogram of one of the columns. As you can see here, we have sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and species. In this case, we're just taking a histogram of sepal length. So we can run that, and we have our typical graph output here in our right-hand side. And also what I have put together is a little continuous by continuous plot of sepal length versus sepal width. And then I have a linear model that is created and a summary. So if I wanted to take this script and put it into a understandable, presentable form, as Ray had mentioned, you can download these graphs, put them into a Word document, copy and paste the information that we have in the console, and it gets a little clunky. So we're going to show you an easier way how to do that. So what we're going to do is you're going to want to go to File, and you're going to go to New File, and instead of clicking the R script, we want to click this R Markdown ... This will be for both PC and for Mac. We're going to click on the R Markdown, and then we're going to give it a title. So I'm just going to call this R Markdown sample, and I am going to put in my name, Brian Ohsowski. We have HTML as our default output format, and we are happy with that. So we're going to click OK. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is we are going to look at what we have here with our R Markdown that's given to us. So it's going to give us this little section to give us information about the title, the author, the date, and then the output format. So if you're happy with the title, if you're happy with the author and the date here, then that's great. We can just keep this here. This little R setup chunk, as we're going to call them, is going to be useful, and we don't want to remove this information. We want to keep this information here. But the rest of this, as we're going to see, is really a tutorial for you to use R Markdown. It gives us some basic information. It's going to show us how to work with and to handle this file format. And you can go ahead and read through this at your leisure to gain some more information. But I'm just going to walk you through and show you how to build this thing from scratch. So what we can do is once we open up this file, we're going to want to click this knit button. The knit button, just like knitting a sweater together, we are going to knit all this code together into like a nice little document, I guess, our Markdown sweater, right? So it's going to ask you for the first time to save this file. So we're going to save this as, again, our Markdown sample. And I'm just going to put this on the desktop. Click Save here.
Replace it.
Yes, this was the old file. We're going to replace it. All right.
Cool.
And so what's going to happen once we knit it together is it shows you your output, right? And as we can see here, it opens up in a brand new window. I personally don't like it. I don't like layers of windows on top of layers of windows.
So few people do.
So people do. So for the one and only time when you are going to be bringing in your R Markdown and you're setting your options, if you go to Tools, Global Options, you can then go to the R Markdown button, and where it says Show Output Preview In, instead of Window, you want to say Viewer Pane.
P-A-N-E.
P-A-N-E. Click Apply and OK. Probably a redundant step, but that's okay. We can just be double check that that works. And then again, let's hit that knit button and see what happens. So now you will see in your right-hand sub-window that we have this little viewer pane.
Sweet.
So we have all of the information that is in our Markdown file. Mm-hmm. So when you're approaching this from a perspective of when you're doing your homework and you're trying to answer all the questions, what I would suggest is everything below the R setup chunk, I would just go ahead and delete it.
Okay.
We don't need it. It's there to help us, but sometimes R is overly helpful.
Sure.
And our studio is often overly helpful. So what we're going to do is we're going to treat this in this space below this chunk just like you would type in a Word document. So we can say type some information here. Mm-hmm. And then let's see what happens when we hit that knit button. So what you will see is you'll still have your title, your R Markdown sample, the author, which is me, the date, and then you can actually see here that we have type some information here.
Yeah, just like you typed.
Just like I typed.
Just like you typed.
We can even do bold,
yep,
if you want to be bold about it, and we can do italics.
Woo.
The formatting is a little weird, but that's okay. We just have to get used to it. We can use the asterisks. So a single asterisk and a double asterisk will give us either bold or italic.
Type some information here.
Type some information here.
Yeah.
Correct, right?
Good.
So a single asterisk will give us the italics, and then the double will give us our bold, right?
Cool.
This is helpful so far. We can actually make little sections in our information as well.
Oh, cool. Like this could be like answers to questions. Like this could be like question 1 or
question 2, question 3, right?
Question 4 even.
So we use the hashtag.
Okay.
Right? So the hashtag will be our number 1 level. So that'll give us the biggest text and the boldest text. Mm-hmm. So answering homework.
But I thought hashtags were for comments in R. Brian, what's going on?
Well, this is R Markdown.
Oh!
So this is an integrated space for not only typing out regular paragraphs and answering questions, but also for using your, for integrating your R code.
Right. Because when you type some information here, on a normal R code, that wouldn't have gone through, right?
That never would have gone through.
Yeah, that would have been error city.
So we'll just say that this is going to be our first level is answering homework.
Yep.
And we'll say with 2 hashtags, we can do Q1 for question 1.
Okay.
And usually what I do is I knit along the way. If you were knitting a sweater, it's an active process. Also, when you knit, you're saving the information every time. So this is like your save button, and it's showing us here.
Okay.
So we have Q1 and then Q2. You can use as many hashtags as you want, and it will just drop the level down further and further.
Okay.
So in this case, we will see that Q1 is much smaller. Okay. So that's all well and good, but let's get to the heart of what R Markdown is going to give us in terms of presenting our homework.
Okay. Right? Yeah, because that's what I like to do.
Yeah. So say we've answered our question, and my verbose answer is type some information here. Okay. I would suggest that you probably add a little bit more information than that.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and say that we wanted to input some R code.
Okay.
What we're going to do is we go to this insert up at the top, and we say insert R.
Oh.
And so what we do is we call this a little R chunk.
Chunk.
They call them chunks. That's literally what it is. You can see here, here's our chunk number 2, right? So this is going to be where you are going to be inputting the R code from your script.
Okay.
Because you always want to work in your R script first you want to do R Markdown last.
Okay.
This is the polishing step, if you will, for doing your homework. So if we were going to go back to our original script, we have our data and we have our summary. When we are making our chunks, I would suggest the smaller the chunks, the easier it is for you to not make mistakes, and also the easier it is to present your data. So what I would do is I would take this data import and summary, Command C on a Mac, Control C on a PC, and I would paste it right into that R chunk.
Okay.
Right? So when we do this and we hit knit, you will now see that we still have type some information here, type like normal up at the top. And the R code itself, the actual code, is going to be in this grayed out box.
Okay.
And then below it is the output from summary.
Oh, yeah.
We can even still include in here, add a comment, because comments are great.
Comments are great.
We bring this up, and you will actually see that it formats it in a way where it gives us a different color, and it makes that comment stand out.
Oh, nice. So if you type some information here in that chunk, it wouldn't go through, right?
No, it would be just like typing it into the R console. It'll give you the same error, and it will be unhappy. So it'll say, oh, error, type not found, just like we would expect.
Yep.
And when we were doing our script.
Okay. So the chunk, inside the chunk, you're like real R coding, and outside the chunk, you can type and do whatever you want.
That's exactly right.
Okay, cool. What about these little accent graves things, those three things? Are they important?
So they're very important. If you happen to delete one of them,
Yeah.
or an entire line of them, things, oh yes, it would not work at all.
No, trouble.
Your error in parse, and once you see parse, you're an unhappy person.
Yeah.
So we can go back and we can add that accent. You can type this out manually, but you might as well just use the insert up here.
I'm into that.
Because why do extra work?
Right. Right.
And to maybe potentially have a typo.
Right.
So here we are. Let's go ahead and knit that to get rid of that error, because we don't want to take a look at that.
No.
And so maybe we're going to then now say we want to make sure we have the same level for question 2.
Sure.
Right? And we might say, let's make a plot.
Okay.
To be more specific,
A histogram.
histogram.
Even. Yes.
Specificity is the heart of narrative.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Precision of
and
language.
we're going to go back to our script. We've already accomplished this task. We brought this information in our first chunk.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and take our histogram.
Yep.
Command C. Going here. Insert R. Pasting our information. And hit knit. So if we scroll down in our viewer,
Let's do that.
you will see now we have question 2 at the level 4 formatting.
Oh, yeah.
Let's make a histogram. Here's our histogram code, and then the histogram output is right here before our eyes.
Lovely.
So as you will be required in all of your classes where you're presenting information, you should always have a figure caption.
Yeah, sure.
So to do that, you just go to the curly brackets here and you make a space after this little thing called R. You start typing in fig.cap, but it pops up. And then in quotation marks, we will say this is a histogram. We will hit knit. And if you scroll down, you will see that it actually gives you the text right here. Now, granted, it doesn't actually give you that figure 1, figure 2. So what I usually do is I just try to stay organized, and I will call this figure 1, and hit knit, and it will then associate this to be figure 1.
Sure. Maybe I'm about to say the wrong thing here, Brian, but at least if you're in my class, you don't have to number the figures, I don't think.
You don't have to number the figures. I'm okay with figure.
Okay.
As long as that we know that this is text. Otherwise, it will just look like it's part of the next line of information that you've typed.
Oh, I see.
So this will at least give you a figure designation that this is a figure.
Couldn't you conceivably just write outside the, like right below, like so delete your figure business? All right, this is like some live video making here. So delete all that stuff. And then underneath that chunk, there. Yeah, right, Fogger. Or
Fogger.
figure.
We can do that.
Figurine.
Figure, this is a histogram 2.
Sure. Let's see.
And it shows up in the same space.
It does, Brian. I think I found a workaround.
You did find a workaround. So if you don't want to add the complication,
you
then
just
you're more
type
than
it right
welcome to
there.
type it right there.
Cool.
So here we are. We have our chunk.
Yep.
Let's just continue on, and as you can see, I'm kind of working back and forth. I'm taking something that I want to integrate my R code. I would be answering my questions.
Oh.
Oh.
You hit the wrong button.
I'm on a Mac, and I am not used to it.
Go back to the script. Hit undo. Okay, now.
Command C,
now
not Control.
No. Yeah.
My fingers want to go directly to the Control.
That's tough.
And we will say that this is
Question 3.
Question 3. Let's make a plot.
Yeah, you'll type things probably more informative than that, but
Yes.
we're just demonstrating.
This is just for demonstration purposes only. So we would go back here, and we will take our plot, and we will knit that. And you will see now, Q3, let's make a plot. We made a plot. If you want to preview a chunk, you can very much do that by hitting the green play button.
Oh, look at that.
And it shows up there.
Oh, how nice.
And then you can just X that out.
Okay.
So you don't need to do that if you don't want to, but it will show up here. So now we have just our last little bit, and I will burn through this quickly because I think the point is made. I'm working as fast as I can, Ray. Putting a linear model in for that plot, hit knit, and what we will see as we scroll down is it'll bring out the call of that space.
Yep.
Great. So this is going to be our Markdown file. When we are ready to share this information, you go to knit, you go knit to HTML, and this might be the coolest thing about this R Markdown program.
I'm ready.
Is when you go to the place where your file is saved on the desktop.
Oh, don't show them that.
Yeah, okay. How do you get there? How do you get there? How do you get there?
Showing them all my secrets.
I don't want to give away all your secrets.
Oh, you got it though. No, I don't want that. We want the desktop. There it is. There it is.
And we have our Markdown sample.html. This is the file that you would share.
Yep.
And this should open up in any internet browser.
Look at that.
So here, this is going to be Safari, I assume.
It is.
You can see here that this will now be read as HTML code in Firefox, in Chrome, in Safari. So when I look at my homework, here's my R Markdown sample, my name, answering homework Q1. Here's all of our information, our output, Q2, let's make a histogram, Q3, let's make a plot, and Q4, our linear model and its output.
Yeah, totally.
And so just like that, that was way easier than fighting in Word. You can still do it in Word if you like, but taking that little bit of an extra step could take you to a much higher level of polished and professionalism.
Do you ask them to turn in an HTML, Brian?
Yes.
Like this, so they would just turn this in.
So they would, on Sakai, they would just attach the HTML that you can then, or that I could open up and view just on any internet browser.
Super.
And so, any other questions?
I think that's it. I think that covers it. Thanks.
Great, thanks.